we are here live on Facebook. My name is Nick Baldwin. I'm the director of strategy and digital content for Success Magazine. I'll let my cohort introduce himself.
And I'm Tristan Almada, CMO of Success Magazine, Success Enterprises. And we've got Hal Elrod with us. Hal's been a friend of ours for a while now, and we're trying to get him onto the cover so people understand the magnitude of the book, the original book, right, where it all started.
Yeah.
In how many languages has it been translated, and where were we at now?
Well, tell everyone what the book is in case they don't know.
Yeah, so the book is The Miracle Morning, the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. I self-published this in 2012, and I think it's a fun story to tell. My goal the first year, I thought I want to change 1 million lives one morning at a time.
Hal Elrod, the author of Miracle Morning, sold, I don't know how many millions of copies, but I just checked on Amazon, 3 million copies. I just checked on Amazon and there's 20,000 reviews, 5-star reviews on Amazon, which is bonkers to me. Are you a record holder for reviews, the number of 5-star reviews?
I don't think so. No,
okay,
dude, actually, James Clear, Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
I went and looked at his book. It's like 86,000, probably over 100,000 5-star reviews. His book is off the charts, man.
So Miracle Morning is a global phenomenon. Hal wrote this book like over a decade ago, and it's one of those books that just can stay with you forever, and it never gets old. We're happy to have Hal with us, and there's lots of Hal fans in the chat, so we're excited. So thanks for being here, Hal.
Dude, it's an honor. And you guys, this is, I think, our third time doing a show together.
So it is.
Maybe fourth. You guys used to email me every few months and you're like, hey, come back on. I'm like, all right, you guys are fun.
First of all, Happy New Year to you.
Happy 2023.
Happy New Year.
That was like 18 days ago.
I know, but I haven't seen you or talked to you. Hey, I want to ask you a quick question before we start. What is your take on New Year's resolutions?
Woo, and take on New Year's resolutions. I think one of the biggest problems with people when they go into the new year is they have what I call a holiday hangover, which means you think about if you're preparing for your best anything ever, right? Everybody goes into the new year. I want to have my best year ever. If you want to have your best marathon ever, your best, whatever it is, you prepare for it. You go into it with momentum. And most people, the week between Christmas and New Year's, they overeat, they overdrink, they oversleep. They essentially show up in, accepting these bad habits, and they go into the new year with an arsenal of bad habits. And then they wonder why they don't have the right start to the year. And obviously we can't go back in time and change what you did over Christmas to New Year's. But I think that in terms of New Year's resolutions, it's about having some form of accountability to follow through. And if you've ever gone, man, every year I set resolutions or I set goals and I don't follow through, you probably got to make a change. And the change is you've got to have somebody that's holding you accountable. Even if you're the world's most successful athlete or CEO, the reason they're so successful, an instrumental part of their success, is they have someone or something holding them accountable, checking in with them to ensure that they're showing up, doing what they're supposed to do, and following through. So integrate some form of accountability. It could be a friend, go, hey, let's be accountability partners where we don't let each other off the hook, but we talk once a week, once a day, whatever, and we commit to what we're going to do. We give each other our word based on our integrity, and then we hold each other accountable and support each other all year long. That can have a bigger impact on your success than anything.
I like that, man. I like that a lot. As far as accountability on any level, I feel like that creates a form of trust and transparency. So let's say you and I and Nick were working together in one company and we formed a leadership team. I think at that point, we would be able to work with each other and know that we're trying because we're being so transparent in accountability. I decided to ask ChatGPT, why is
so cool?
Elrod awesome? And
I love it.
And it gave me a great response. But more importantly, I said, should Hal Elrod be on the cover of Success Magazine?
Oh my gosh.
And it says, it's possible because he's well-known and successful motivational speaker, author, and he went into it. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if you had tried that before, Hal.
No, I like that. I mean, you really can ask it anything. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's fun, Tris. Thank you.
That was good, man. So even ChatGPT says you should be on the cover.
I mean, yeah, all right. I'm not going to argue with that.
So real quick for everyone watching, I'm sure most people are familiar with your story, but if there's a couple that aren't, briefly tell us you have a pretty incredible story that changed your life. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'll try to give the quick version here. When I was 19 years old, I was a radio DJ. That was my dream. And I started at 15 on the radio in my hometown, little small mountain town. And then at 19, I got on an FM station, 97.1 FM in Central California, pursuing my dream. And then a buddy of mine got me to interview for Cutco Cutlery. And I was like, dude, I'm not a salesperson. Like, no, thanks. And he persisted. And one day like tricked me into going into an interview. I'm like, fine, if it gets you off my back. And I ended up seeing the light. I was like, wait, commission where there's no ceiling on my income and I can set my own schedule. Like, this sounds really, really interesting. And so for a couple of weeks, I did the radio and Cutco, but I started earning so much income at Cutco that I was like, man, the radio, like, yeah, that's my dream, but I'll get back to that. I need to make some money, save some money, buy a house, that kind of thing. And a year and a half into my Cutco career, I was giving a speech at a conference, left the conference, got into my brand new Ford Mustang, my first new car, and driving home that night, I was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 to 80 miles per hour, a drunk driver in a full-size Chevy truck. And then my car spun off the drunk driver. The car behind me crashed into my door, and I was found dead at the scene. My heart stopped for 6 minutes. I broke 11 bones. My eye socket broke. My ear was almost completely severed. I broke my arm in half, my elbow, my femur, my pelvis. Heart stopped for 6 minutes. I was revived on the helicopter, rushed to the hospital, spent 6 days in a coma. And when I came out of the coma, they said I would never walk again. And so I had the mindset, if I never walk again, and this is the greatest lesson I feel like that we can learn. Well, first of all, I was in a car accident. I can't change that. I'm now have 11 broken bones. I can't change that. If I never walk again, I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life. That will be unchangeable at that point. And I said, I will be I decided, okay, if this is my reality, what are my choices? And this is true for all of us, no matter what challenge or adversity you're enduring in your life right now, or you endured when you were a child, or at some point in the past, or you're afraid of for the future, we get to choose how we experience every moment of our life. I decided I can either be miserable because this happened to me and this sucks, or I can be the happiest, most grateful I've ever been while I endure the most difficult time in my life. And I made the latter choice. And I thought, if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I could be miserable because of it, be a victim, feel sorry for myself, or I could be the happiest, most grateful person that you've ever seen in a wheelchair. And so again, if you're watching this right now, what's your wheelchair? What's that challenge, that adversity, that difficulty that you faced in your life, or that you're facing right now, or that's on the horizon? And you were under the impression that what we've been conditioned to believe, which is good things happen and I feel good. But when bad things happen, I feel bad. And I'm offering you a new paradigm that no matter what happens to you, you get to choose how you get to feel how you choose to feel. And so that was the choice I made. I took my first step. 2 weeks after I came out of the coma, the doctors couldn't explain it. And I believe that the connection of that, I had unwavering faith that I would walk again, but at the same time, accepting if I didn't. It was like both sides of the coin, holding both possibilities where worst case scenario, I'm the happiest, most grateful person anyone's ever seen in a wheelchair. Best case scenario, which is where all my energy and my attention and my faith is going, is I'm going to walk again. I don't know how, don't even know it's possible, but I might as well believe in what I want until proven otherwise. And then a week later, the doctors came in with x-rays and they're like, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing so fast that we're going to let you take your first step today. And the rest is kind of history, as they say. And quickly, the last piece of it is 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and I was given a 20 to 30% chance of surviving. You know, and as a father with two small kids, my daughter was 7, my son was 4, being told that there is a 70 to 80% chance that you're going to die within a matter of weeks, by the way. It's the hardest thing, you know, that I'd ever dealt with. And the day I was diagnosed with cancer and given those grim odds, my wife was understandably distraught and terrified that my husband's going to die in the next few weeks. And at that time, my heart was failing, my lung was failing, and my kidneys were failing. This cancer attacks your organs very quickly, and most people die within a matter of weeks. And I told her, I said, sweetheart, 2 things. Number one, I know the doctors say there's a 20 to 30% statistical chance that I'll survive. I said, that's based on statistics. That's based on a group of people. That's not my statistic. I'm telling you, sweetheart, there's a 100% chance in my mind that I will be among the 20 to 30% of those that survive it. And I said, and number two, it's the same decision I made 17 years ago when I had my car accident. I'm going to be the happiest, most grateful I've ever been while I endure what I'm imagining will be the most difficult time in my life. And it was the hardest time in my life, but it beat cancer. And again, that mindset of I doubled down on my miracle morning. Like I did this every day. The difference was my miracle morning leading up to the cancer journey was focused on being happy and successful and a great dad and a great husband. Once I had cancer, my entire miracle morning was focused on beating cancer. That was it. I was meditating on being healthy from cancer. I was reading affirmations that affirm my commitment to beat cancer and what I was going to do. I was visualizing every cell in my body perfectly healthy. I was reading books on natural ways to beat cancer. I was journaling, my entire miracle morning. And that to me, I call that miracle morning 2.0, where instead of it being a general practice to put you in a peak state every morning, you actually are focusing, what's my number one objective in my life right now? Whether it's making money or saving your marriage or beating cancer, whatever, and you filter all of the miracle morning practices, you filter that one objective through all 6 of those practices. So that's the story. That's the shortest I can tell the story.
No, it's every time I hear it, it's like so inspiring every time I hear it. You know what I mean? We've had like such a crazy couple years with the pandemic that it's good to hear something. It's good to hear something positive. You know what I'm saying? Tristan, go ahead.
It's a good continuation of just the human aspect of struggle.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. And I know you're a big proponent of using journals. So this is kind of like a selfish question, Hal, for me.
Well, it's part of the miracle morning.
It's one of the savers,
How has journaling changed just over the last 2 years or year for you? Has it, or are you still journaling in the same way?
There's only one thing that I've changed. So my journaling practice was essentially based on what I learned from the 5-minute journal, which was basically 3 things. What are you grateful for? Like, what are 3 things you're grateful for, right? Writing those down. The difference being there's what I call intellectual gratitude, which is like, if I were to say, what are you grateful for? You could get it go in your head and go, and just think like, food, roof over my head, my family. And then there's what I call soulful gratitude, or you can call it heartfelt gratitude. And I try to do that where when I write down what I'm grateful for, then I'll imagine not having it. Like I'll take just 10 seconds to imagine what would my life be like if, let's say I wrote down my wife, if she was gone, if she died, right? Like something, the worst. What I find is that dichotomy gives like, it goes, when you then go back to the gratitude, you're like, oh my God, she's not gone. I have her in my life. Thank God. And to me, it like the amount of gratitude you feel, right? Because sometimes it takes catching a glimpse of something that you often take for granted, of not having it, to realize how much it means to you. So for me, I like to meditate on those gratitude points, like really feel it for about 60 seconds per, and just feel deeply grateful for that. So that's number one. What are you grateful for? Go ahead.
Do you write down your response, or do you just think it through?
I usually just think it through. I usually just I love the word marinate, like meditate and marinate, they kind of the same thing, but it's like I marinate in that state of gratitude. The second thing is, what are the top 1 to 3 things for me to get done today? And so my highest priorities, and like most of us have more than 1 to 3 things on our to-do list. And very often human nature is to gravitate toward the things with the least consequences, right? The least significant consequence, right? Or that's the least scary or the least out of our comfort zone. But it's often not the most important thing for us to get done. So I'll look at my to-do list of 20 things and I'll go, okay, what's the number 1 thing that I'm going to get done today that will move the needle in my life or my business? I'm going to get that done. And then I earn the right to work on the second priority. And then once that's done, I earn the right to work on the third priority. And what we tend to do is gravitate toward, like I said, well, I'm going to trick myself into thinking I'm productive by checking off as many easy tasks that don't really matter. I check my email. Awesome. Look at that. I organized my office again, what really matters. And then the one thing that I changed recently And the Miracle Morning app, if everybody's watching, go download the Miracle Morning app. It's free. And then there's a premium version with guided, meditations and stuff. But the free version has a built-in journal with these prompts. And the one thing that I've added into my journaling, so the two things I just mentioned, I've done that for years. What I added is, and it actually goes at the beginning of all these. So I'm sorry if you're taking notes and you wrote 1, 2, write a 0 at the top, right? This is the real number 1 now, what do I need to let go of? And that's where I start. And here's what I've found. Let's say you're going into gratitude, you're going into priorities, you're focused on the positive, but you had a fight with your spouse the night before, or you are extraordinarily afraid of this thing, or just life, whatever, right? Like, or there's some major stressor in your life. And what we often do is we just suppress it. We just push it down. I'm going to focus on the gratitude. But it's like, dude, it's doing damage. It's hurting you mentally, physically, emotionally. And so that to me has been extremely powerful, is starting out with, what do I need to let go of? Right. And then just really getting quiet, closing your eyes and thinking, what's causing me fear, anxiety, stress? What am I worried about? What am I upset about, angry about? And it usually doesn't take long for it to come up, because it's whatever, usually it's something recent. And then you go, okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go. Either I'm going to accept it as it is. I'm going to accept it. It is what it is. I can't change it. Or if it's something that can be changed over time, but not in this moment, right? I'm going to let it go for now. And maybe I'll write it. A lot of times when you write it down, you go, I'm going to let it go. Right? You might star it, you might circle it, you might move it over to your to-do list, right? But like, it doesn't mean that you're letting it go and never revisiting it. But it's like, in this moment, for me to be at peace and really be present to my miracle morning, I need to not have this baggage that I'm holding inside. I got to let that go. So that's it. What do I want to let go? What am I grateful for? What are my top 1 to 3 priorities for the day?
In that order?
Yeah.
Dude.
So, okay, I just ran a poll on Zoom asking if people practice Miracle Morning. 53% of people on the Zoom do, 47% of them don't. So let's convert some of them, right? So, but let's talk about what you include in a Miracle Morning and why. So you have a kind of like a code name for the different aspects of Miracle Morning. Savers. Right? It's easy to remember. So what is in a Miracle Morning?
So I want to say this first, is that anyone watching this, if you're like, I'm not a morning person, like, this isn't going to apply to me. I once surveyed our community. And again, 3 million people have read the Miracle Morning. I don't know how many millions practice it daily, but it's probably, 1 to 2. I don't exactly know. Maybe more. But the point is, I wasn't a morning person when I did my first Miracle Morning. And the reason I did it is I was like, I need to change my life. It was 2008. The economy had crashed. I had crashed with it. The Great Recession, which it seems that we're in the midst of that again. And I had lost over half of my coaching clients. I was a business coach. I lost over half of my coaching clients, so half of my income. My house was foreclosed on, right? I was at really my rock bottom at that point. And I was depressed. I was scared. Nothing was working. And I couldn't figure out how to turn my situation around. And then I heard a quote from Jim Rohn. He said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And instantly, I quantified that. I went, if we're measuring the level of success that all of us want in every area of our life, our health, our finances, our happiness, our relationships, our physical energy, right? Everybody wants level 10. Nobody's like, I don't want to be too healthy or too happy. Like, no, we all want level 10 success, however you define success. But according to Jim Rohn, your level of personal development, that's over here, will never exceed, or your level of success won't exceed your level of personal development. So if your level of personal development is down here at a 3 or 4, that's probably where your success is residing. And so in that moment, in 2008, I went, I want level 10 success, but my level of personal development is like at a 2 or a 3. And I realized this is the disconnect for me at the time, and I believe the majority of society, is that we want level 10 success, but we don't have a daily practice to ensure that we're becoming a level 10 version of ourselves. And so I went home with this epiphany that I've got to go create the most prolific, effective, personal development ritual in the history of the world. Like I was, thinking like, I want to figure out what the best of the best practices are. And I was looking for like 1 or 2 practices. I was Googling, what do the world's most successful people do for personal development? And I ended up with a list of 6 practices. And here's the answer to your question. What's a miracle morning? The 6 practices were meditation, which if you're taking notes, write down the word silence, because meditation became silence, which I actually like better because it could be deep breathing, breath work, right? It could be prayer, right? So there's a lot of elements of silence that you can choose from. Then I came across affirmations. So this is the SAVERS acronym. Silence, affirmations. The V is for visualization, right? You look at the world's greatest athletes, they visualize themselves performing at their best before they ever step onto the field or step onto the court. And I believe we should do that before we ever step into our day. Visualize yourself doing the things you need to do today, the most important things, many of which are out of your comfort zone, and get yourself into a peak emotional state while you're visualizing it, so that when it's time to go for that run or cold call prospects or start writing the book that you've been procrastinating on because you have writer's block, you've already visualized and mentally rehearsed and emotionally rehearsed you doing that thing in a peak state. So when it's time to do it, you're compelled to do it because you've practiced that way. The E in SAVERS is for exercise. I'm not saying go to the gym in the morning, but you should do 60 seconds of jumping jacks to get the heart rate up, get the blood flowing. In our app, we have all of the SAVERS are in the Miracle Morning app that are guided. So somebody guides you through silence and guides you through affirmations and guides you through visualization. Has you stand up and do your exercise. They guide you through all of it. The R in SAVERS is for reading, and not rocket science, but anything you want to improve in your life, you're 1 book away from that, right? You want to transform your marriage. I just bought a book today on it's called Scaling Up Compensation. And I'm about to build a big team and we're hiring a bunch of people. And I realized that I don't have any kind of strategy for compensation. And this book is going to teach me how to do that, right? So 1 book away from any solution that you need. And then the final S in SAVERS is for scribing. Scribing, which is a word which means writing. That it would be journaling, but thanks to my wife and her brilliance, when I was writing the Miracle Morning book, I had meditation and these other journaling. And I was overwhelmed, like, sweetheart, I don't have a way to like sync these and make them memorable. And she goes, why didn't you get a thesaurus and see if you can swap out any of the words and then assemble them into an acronym? And I was like, I kissed her on the face. I'm like, you're friggin' brilliant. And then SAVERS was born. And so I'll tell you, Robert Kiyosaki, he's probably the biggest, next to me, he's the biggest advocate for the Miracle Morning in the world. He's read the book 3 times last time I checked. He talks about it in almost every speech he gives. And Robert, if you're watching this, I love you. You are the man. Thank you so much for your support. But not because I paid him. What happened was I met him at an event. I gave him a signed copy of the Miracle Morning, and I felt like a goober. I'm like, I look desperate. Like, he's not going to read my little self-published book. This guy's worth $80 million. But Wayne Gretzky showed up, not literally, but in my head. Oh. And he went, Hal, you miss all the shots you don't take. And I was like, all right, I'll give Robert a copy of the book, whatever. He throws it in the trash. You miss all the shots you don't take. At least I'll take a shot. And a few weeks later, his assistant emailed me and said, Robert has read your book 3 times. He wants you on Rich Dad Radio to interview you. I was like, oh my gosh, it was like one of my favorite authors, right? So the reason I'm sharing this story is at the end of the interview, he summed up the SAVERS better than I ever had. He said, Hal, before I read the Miracle Morning and before you wrote the Miracle Morning, he said, every successful person on the planet swears by at least one of the SAVERS. There are some CEOs that swear by their meditation practice, right? There are some, that swear by it's their exercise routine that gets them in that peak state every day. It's their journaling. It's the books they read, on and on. He said, but I had never met anyone, he said, himself included. He said, I'm a personal development junkie, or whatever. I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I never met anybody that did all 6 of those best practices. And he said, if you do any one of them, it'll change your life. But what you've done, he said, you've combined all 6. He said, you're now benefiting from the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices in the history of humanity. And he said, I think you named the book right, The Miracle Morning, because he said, since I began the SAVERS practices, he goes, I'm experiencing miracles in my life. And I mean, we have tens of thousands of reviews and stories and emails from people that it's the Miracle Morning saved their marriage. It saved their finances. It got them off their depression meds. Like, these aren't this is like over and over and over. So many stories like this. And because of that, the last thing I'll say is my life is dedicated to sharing the Miracle Morning, elevating human consciousness and sharing the Miracle Morning probably for the rest of my life, And so thank you both for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Always, buddy, always. Hey, so one of the biggest excuses you probably hear is, well, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
Right? How can somebody be held accountable or hold themselves accountable to doing this routine regularly?
Yeah. So I don't have time. So when I first had this idea, I'm like, okay, I've got these 6 practices, right? And I'm sitting again, this is 2008, I'm taking us back, 2008, I'm on my couch. I got 6 practices. I'm like, I guess I should take like an hour, right? I'll just do 10 minutes each, and I really want to double down and commit to my personal development, because I really believe I need to elevate myself to become that level 10 person that's capable of creating that level 10 success I want. And I look at it, but my thought was, how am I going to fit this into my already packed schedule? I wake up at 6 a.m. and I go, I brush my teeth, go into my office, and I work. At that point, I was so desperate to make money because I was in debt and foreclosed on my house. I just worked until like 8, 9 p.m. until I couldn't anymore, till my brain stopped working. And then I watched an hour of TV and I went to bed, and that's what I did every day. So I'm looking at my schedule and I go, well, when am I going to fit this in? I go, I guess after work, but I'm going, there's no way. Like, I'm brain dead at 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. That's not the best time for me to really focus on my growth. So then I'm looking at my schedule. I'm like, well, I can't fit it in the middle of my day. Like, I'm working all day, but I wasn't a morning person. So the obvious next move in my schedule is like the morning. I go, what am I going to do? Get up at 5 a.m.? Who gets up at 5 a.m.? And I was like, oh, the world's most successful people get up at 5 a.m. I was like, right, Robin Sharma and the 5 a.m. club, they get up at 5 a.m. And I was like, I almost was like, nah, I'm going to scrap the idea. Like, I'm not getting up at 5. And then one of my mentors at the time, Kevin Bracey, his voice, he said, if you want your life to be different, you have to be willing to do something different first. It may be the simplest yet equally profound wisdom that there is, right? If you want your life to be different, you have to be willing to do something different first. And I was like, damn it, he's right. And I wrote in my schedule, 5 a.m. personal development. And I was like, I'm doing it. Here's the crazy part. I mentioned I wasn't a morning person. And when I surveyed the Miracle Morning community a few years ago, 72% said that before they read the Miracle Morning, not only were they not morning people, they didn't want to be a morning person, right? Like, some friend convinced them to read the book or whatever. But here's what's crazy. For the 6 months prior to that day, I was depressed. I felt hopeless. Maybe you've been there before, where you're so depressed that the only refuge you have is your bed. You're like, oh God, I'm almost there. Like, you literally, like, you just claw your way through the day just so you know that you get to lay in bed and it's safe. And you're not facing your problems. Nobody's demanding your time. Your bill collectors aren't coming after you while you're in bed. You get this illusion of like, okay, this is my safe space for 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever I sleep, right? And then when the morning hits, you wake up and you're like, oh God, I got to do it all over again, right? That's where I was. That very first night, I was like a kid on Christmas. I was like, dude, this is going to be it. Like, I think this is it. I think if I do this every day, this could be the one thing that changes everything. And the next morning, when my eyes opened, I was like a kid on Christmas morning. I was like, dude, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I went out there. The night before, I had Googled, 6 tabs were open on my computer. How to meditate, how to do affirmation. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing, right? How to do visualization. And I fumbled my way through the whole thing. Like, it wasn't an on-point morning routine. It was like, okay, so I close my eyes and clear my mind. And I'm like, dude, I suck at meditating. Like, this is not working, right? But even after an hour of a subpar morning routine, I felt incredible. For the first time in 6 months, I didn't feel depressed. I felt hopeful. Like, if I do this every day, it's only a matter of time before I ratchet up and become a better version of myself and eventually become that person, that level 10 version that I need to create the success I want. And it happened in less than 2 months. In less than 2 months, I was thinking it would take a year, the compound effect. In less than 2 months, I more than doubled my income. And I want to really, really pay attention to this part. If you're watching this and you're either suffering financial challenges right now, as I was, or you're concerned with the recession, right? And you're afraid of, what if I lose my income? What if I'm not selling as many houses? What if what if I get laid off? What if I lose clients, right? Because that's where I was. My income had dropped by more than 50%, right? I lost my house and I was scared that I couldn't figure it out. 6 months, I couldn't figure it out. Here's what happened. At that time, I focused most of my Miracle Morning on how to generate income, how to attract clients. The first book that I bought was called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. It was that if you have a service-based business, how do you get clients? First book that I bought, right? The next book I bought, because I was a coach, was Multiple Streams of Coaching Income. Because of those 2 books, within 2 months, I more than doubled my income by applying the strategies. And I went to my wife and I said, sweetheart, I signed on 2 more clients today. We've officially more than doubled our income since I started that morning routine. Again, y'all, it wasn't called the Miracle Morning. It wasn't a book idea. It was called Personal Development at 5 a.m. And I went to my wife.
That doesn't have that much of a ring to it.
No, it doesn't have a ring to it. But I said, sweetheart, we've doubled our income in the last 2 months since I started that morning routine. It's because of the morning routine. She goes, it's like, I said, it feels like a miracle. And she goes, it's your Miracle Morning. And I go, I like that. Miracle Morning. That's got a great ring to it. So I started writing in my schedule every day, 5 a.m. Miracle Morning. And then I taught it to all of my coaching clients. I had 14 coaching clients at the time. Almost all of them said what many people watching this are thinking. I'm not a morning person. I already get up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. I don't want to get up any earlier. And let me say on that note, by the way, the Miracle Morning doesn't have to be an hour. A lot of people do a 30-minute Miracle Morning. There's a chapter in the book called the 6-minute Miracle Morning for days where you're really pressed for time. You don't have time to sit down and do a full-blown ritual, but you can do a 30-minute Miracle Morning and go pretty deep. But I told all my coaching clients and all of them said, I'm not a morning person. And then they came back and said, Hal, I'm having the best week in my sales career, right? Even though, again, the economy was in the tank. But I believe, and I've seen this play out, if you get better, your personal economy gets better, if you will, right? Like you can't control the economy. You can only control what you put in your brain, what you learn, what you think, and how you show up every single day. And so when my clients came back to their next call saying, I'm having the best week in my sales career, I'm running again, I'm reading, like I'm a morning person, Hal, and I've never been a morning person. That's when the light bulb went off and I went, if it worked for me and it worked for them and most of us weren't morning people, this could change anyone's life and I have a responsibility to share it. And so it took me 3 years. I'm a slow ass writer, but finally, self-published the Miracle Morning in 2012. And, the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Hey, Hal, real quick, what are the 2 books are Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port.
By Michael Port and Multiple Streams of Coaching Income. And I think that one might be out of print. I don't remember CJ. I don't remember the author's name for sure.
That one could use a sexier title from your wife.
What?
There you go. She should come up with a better title for that one.
It's a straightforward title. Tells you what it's about.
It's very straightforward.
But it was years later that I applied that. And then I launched a group coaching program and that, so.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Hal, we're just out of time, but we appreciate you always being here with us. And someone has one quick comment or question, and I want to get to it because you guys came here and you're awesome. Jennifer Putt is saying, hey, Hal, you talked about those darker times in your life and how you made the decision to have a positive outlook. As a 10-year cancer survivor myself, those darker thoughts tend to creep back in. Can you talk a little bit about how you truly made that shift? And do you find that this is a lifelong practice, shifting back to gratitude instead of fear?
Yes. And thank you. What was her name again?
Jennifer.
Thank you for that question. My Miracle Morning is everything. And what I mean by that is this. It's the core of my how do I put it? Of my being, in terms of practices. And here's the specific answer to your question. Affirmations, and this is for everybody. Affirmations, I believe, are the most misunderstood, mistaught form of personal development and the most effective. They're mistaught because we're taught one of two ways to do affirmations, which is either affirm that you are something that you're not. If you're broke, if you're struggling financially, just tell yourself, I am wealthy. I am wealthy, and just say it until you believe it. If you do that and it's not true, or you don't believe it's true, you're creating an internal conflict, right? The other problem with affirmations is we're taught to promise ourselves a magical result independent of any effort, right? I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance, and all of my financial problems will be solved, right?
I can make it rain.
Yeah, no, it's like that. And that deludes you. That gives you temporary relief from your money woes while making you think that you don't need to actually do anything to solve them because they're magically going to fix themselves because you're a money magnet, right? So here are my 3 steps to create affirmations that produce results. And Jennifer, you can apply this to being happy, being healthy, being an amazing parent, making money, achieving any goal. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. In template form, that says, I am committed to blank, no matter what, there is no other option. I am committed to blank, no matter what, there is no other option. Because we don't get what we want in life, we get what we're committed to. I'm committed to being genuinely happy, right? Or whatever your commitment is, or wealthy, or whatever it is. Step 2, affirm why it is meaningful for you. Why is that commitment meaningful for you? I'm committed when I had cancer, I'm committed to beating cancer and living to be 100 plus years old alongside Ursula and the kids. No matter what, there is no other option. That second step, I'm committed to beating cancer for Ursula because I promised her forever and a day. I'm committed to beating cancer for Sophia and Halston because they need their daddy's love, guidance, and leadership. I'm committed to beating cancer for my mom because she doesn't deserve to lose another child. My sister died when I was younger. I'm committed to beating cancer for my dad because he gave up everything to save me, right? So I have this list of bullet points that fueled my conviction to that commitment. I will do whatever it takes. And the third step is what it takes. Affirm which specific actions you will take and when you will take them. So in order to follow through with that commitment that you've just clarified is so meaningful to you, what are you going to do and when are you going to do it? And on day 1, let's say your commitment is, I want to start I want to be an entrepreneur and start my own business. And as you're writing out the affirmations, because I want financial freedom and I want to control my time and I want to make an impact in the world. But let's say you get to step 3 and you go, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. Then what you're supposed to do is, I'm going to dedicate an hour Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. figuring out how to start a business. Right? So step 1 is to figure out the steps, right? That's step 1. It's about dedicating that time to figure out whatever it is that you're trying to improve.
Love it. Always great. Always great.
Dude, we've talked to you so many times. We did a podcast with you on success, and I'm still taking notes. I'm like,
that's why Tristan doesn't talk very much.
Because he's taking notes.
So good, buddy. So good. I got some.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Jennifer thanks you in the chat for taking the time to explain that. So Hal, thank you so much for being here. If you guys watching want to get a copy of this replay, go subscribe and turn on notifications to the Success YouTube channel. Subscribe and then hit the little bell and select all notifications, because when we upload this in the next couple days, you'll get notified and you can watch it and send it to all your friends. So you can do that. And also, if you're registered for the Zoom, we have your email, so we'll send you a replay too. That's another way. But we'd like you to go subscribe to the channel, because that's how things work now.
Go subscribe. These guys are putting their time in.
Yeah, come on, go subscribe. We're going to be putting up some good stuff.
Oh, Hal, Jarek says hello. Jarek says
hi.
Oh,
real quick.
He loves me. I love Jarek. I love Jarek. I miss Jarek. Tell him I miss him and I want to connect. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not just saying it.
All right, cool. We'll make it happen. Real quick. What are you working on? What can we look forward to?
Y'all go to miraclemorning.com for everything.
I've been dropping the website in the chat the whole time.
Have you? Dude, I've never loved a homepage. We just had a new homepage designed, and I'm like, It's gorgeous, like the functionality and how
Yeah, it
things
looks
move.
really
Anyway,
good.
it's really cool. But that's a hub for everything. Everybody, here's your first assignment. I'm going to encourage. Go watch the Miracle Morning movie. It's free. If you don't know what that is, it's a documentary we spent 6 years filming. Robert Kiyosaki's in it, Mel Robbins, Lewis Howes, Jarek Robbins, and a whole bunch more, Robin Sharma. And go watch the movie. And I got cancer halfway through. So you watch me fight for my life for the last 30 minutes of the film. Spoiler alert, I beat the cancer, but
don't tell us the ending.
But it's free now. The movie, you used to have to rent it or buy it. And in January, we made it free. So miraclemorning.com. The app is there. The books are there. The movie's there. The Facebook community, you can link to that. Everything's at miraclemorning.com. Thank you, guys. I love you so much. This is such an honor. I appreciate it. And
Love you
can't
too,
wait to do it
buddy.
again.
Thank you for being here. And everyone, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Go like our Facebook page. And we appreciate you all. Thanks, Hal. Have an awesome day, man.
You too,
Everyone.
guys.